property insurance, inland marine coverage, and motor truck cargo coverage. So these are 3 different coverages that you may need, you also might not. You don't necessarily need the Cadillac of insurance programs when you get started. You don't want the Pinto of insurance either. So something like a Taurus is probably middle of the road for an insurance program. When it comes to property insurance is really designed to cover your business personal property or your warehouse. If you buy a warehouse, you want to protect the building and you want to protect the contents. If you're leasing warehouse space, and you've accumulated furniture or computers or items of value, then your business personal property and property coverage, you have to go out and buy that particular coverage. Most guys, we don't recommend it, especially when they're getting started, because a lot of guys just start the business out and run the business out of their homes. So there's not necessarily a large property risk exposure. When it comes to property coverage, it may or may not make sense for you in order to buy those policies. They're typically inexpensive. They range anywhere between $500 to $1,500. Depending on what you're insuring. The only time we do definitely recommend is when we've got the opportunity to bundle the property coverage with your general liability and then get you a discount off of your general liability of 20 or 30% as a result of bundling it. So we do occasionally recommend it when we're working with a carrier that offers that discount, but in general, do you need it? Is it required? Not necessarily. Inland marine coverage is a different type of coverage, which is also an additional coverage, and it really covers leased and rented equipment. It covers contractors' tools and equipment. For example, bobcats or higher items of value that you want to make sure that you have insurance on or that you have a bank loan on. So another great example is containers. If you're dropping dumpsters on somebody's property while the dumpster is sitting on their property, if you don't have an inland marine policy, then you don't have coverage for your property while it's left away from your business premise. The inland marine coverage covers the dumpsters. If you have a loan on your dumpsters, if you borrow money in order to purchase those, then you're going to be required to insure those so that the bank's interest is covered. It's not always necessary. If you're renting a piece of equipment, a lot of times you can buy the coverage that the rental company offers, and then you don't have to have an inland marine policy. You also don't have to have an inland marine policy if you just want to self-insure your dumpsters and your personal equipment. It really just depends on what your level of risk and comfortability is, whether or not you have a contractual liability to a bank as a result of a bank loan, or whatever your specific set of circumstances are. Another example of an additional coverage that you may want to consider would be motor truck cargo coverage. You're a junk company, so everything's supposed to be garbage or trash or not of value. So if you're moving people's valuables, for example, small offices or quad runners into storage or somebody's vintage dresser, there is no coverage for that unless you go out and buy specifically a motor truck cargo policy. So the motor truck cargo policy is going to cover the contents of your trailer or the back of your truck while in transit. And it's other people's property that you're concerned about covering. So the motor truck cargo coverage is typically inexpensive. It might be for $10,000 limit or $20,000 limit. It might be $500 to $1,000 for the year. For the policy, but it's important to know that you're not insured if you don't have a motor truck cargo coverage and you agree to move a bunch of physician offices and now all of a sudden you have $20,000 to $30,000 worth of equipment and furniture and items of value. If you get in an auto accident, there is no coverage for that unless you have a motor truck cargo policy. With regards to the trailer itself, the trailer is always covered when you're pulling it. So as long as you have it specifically scheduled on your auto policy, so the value of your trailer might be $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, and that will be covered under the auto policy. But the motor truck cargo policy covers the contents. So that's important to know as well.